Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Bold Predictions here at Inside Nebraska. Before we get started, encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, get all these videos dropped directly into your feed. I'm with me, as always, for these BPs is Steve Mark and Tim Vergeese. I'm Zack Carpenter. Guys, we got Illinois coming into Nebraska, 7:05 p.m. Central Time on Big Ten Network. Is it Big Ten Network? No, I don't even remember. Fox.
Fox.
It's on Fox. Looking, that's why I got the handy dandy game notes here. It's one of those facts that's in your head all week, and then as soon as you're about to say it, you forget. But Illinois or Nebraska rather is an 8.5 point favorite, I believe, is the updated line. 7.5, 8.5, and 8.5, and 42.5 is the updated over under as we're recording here on Wednesday. Um, Guys, I wanted to open it up the discussion instead of just like general overall thoughts about the matchup. Wanted to hit on something that you guys were talking about in the Nebraska football show that went up on Wednesday morning. I found interesting because it sort of hit me as you guys were having the discussion. And Steve, I'll start with you. Sort of focused on the offense. Tim, you talk about the defense, but on both sides of the ball, and you guys were touching on this, that over the first three games against UTEP, Colorado, Northern Iowa, it's like Nebraska was holding stuff back and like even setting things up, talking about the Thomas Fedoni not turning up field and getting him on shallow routes in the flat and not totally taking advantage of what his best skill set might be. You guys had some other thoughts about like what plays they might be holding back or concepts, designs, and whatnot. I just found it interesting because compared to last year, this team was doing absolutely everything it could to squeeze every little penny it could to try and win. And now you guys are talking about them holding things back for Big Ten play. I just think that's such an advantage. Just wanted you to speak on that, Steve. You start with the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska's offense has obviously been completely changed with at the quarterback position with Don Rella and what his abilities are. It's completely different than what Nebraska had at the quarterback spot last year. So, and on top of that, the schedule was easier than it was last year, especially to start. So when you're 3-0 and you're playing a bad group of five team like UTEP, you're playing an overhyped, not very, very good Big 12 team in Colorado, and then you get an FCS team. You can afford to do these things on offense, which is get your lead in the first half and kind of run the football and coast in the second half. And doing that, you're afforded you can just kind of keep things in, keep different kind of plays and concepts that you really feel good about in your back pocket for when you truly need them. And Nebraska through three games hasn't needed them because they played some bad football teams and they've gotten out to good leads in the first half. And so that doesn't really necessarily mean that you have to show all your cards in the second half. And so that's why when Matt Rule says when he gets a lead at halftime, he wants to run the football and run up the clock and be boring in the fourth quarter. And so I totally get that line of thinking. I understand why he's doing that and everything, but sooner or later, those plays that Nebraska's offense is running and feels good about. Tim and I talked about the tight end position with Thomas Fedoni and those east-west routes that, the fan base is kind of like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Well, I think it's because Marcus Satterfield wants to put that on tape. And sooner or later, when you really need a first down, when you really need an explosive in the middle of the field or down the sideline, sooner or later, Thomas Fedoni is going to be running those arrow routes east-west, but then he's going to turn up the field. And defenses might not have seen that on film yet, so they might only be thinking that he's going to be running those arrow routes, and it's just a straight. He's attached to the line. He's attached to the offensive line, and he's just going to the sideline. Sooner or later, he's gonna plant his foot and get north and south, and I think that's where the explosives are going to be happening. And so that could be coming against Ohio State maybe, or Indiana, or Rutgers, whichever opponent Nebraska needs an explosive against. I think things like that are going to be starting to happen. So Nebraska has had such a good go of it through its first three games. It hasn't really had to dive deep into Marcus Satterfield's bag and do a lot of cool stuff and explosive stuff. They've shown some very creative play calling, but I think there's more that Marcus Satterfield has waiting for us, and I think we're going to see that as the season goes on, especially when the Husker offense really needs it.
Yeah, and then I think defensively it's the same thing. I mean, we the thing with Marcus Satterfield is like we don't necessarily know what's in his bag just yet because it was so hard to tell, what the identity he wanted out of the offense was last year. This year, the identity he kind of wants and he's setting up. But I'm excited to see him kind of dip into his bag. On the other side, we do know what's in Tony White's bag. We saw that last year, and we haven't necessarily seen a whole lot of it this year. Against UTEP, I believe the blitz rate they were at legitimately 0%. Like they'd never blitzed once against UTEP, and they still got after the quarterback. They barely blitzed against Colorado, kind of got after the quarterback there. Colorado was the game, and even UTEP was kind of a game they just kind of lived out of base. And they were okay doing that, as we've talked about previously. They kind of shifted their base from a 3-3-5 man to a four, basically a 4-2-5 quarters. Coverage is kind of what they're running out of base, which translates week to week no matter the opponent, and it helps against tempo, which you saw against UTEP and against Colorado. Just those wide receivers, it helps kind of eliminate the deep threat with those electric wide receivers that they have. Against Northern Iowa, surprising. I don't even know it was surprisingly, but just because of the type of game they found themselves in defensively, you saw a little more blitzing from them, especially in that second half as they kind of unloaded the bench to get some stops. You saw some 5-6 man pressures, partly because the passing just wasn't so much of a threat. I wonder if you see that a little more of that this week. And again, going into Big Ten play, I think defensively you're going to start to see Tony White mix it up a little bit, call some blitzes, let his guys pin their ears back and get after the quarterback while trusting the DBs that have had 3 games now to build some. Because again, coming into the year, we weren't sure about that cornerback 2 spot. Marquez Buford's done a really good job there, or about as good of a job as you can do there. And so they've built some confidence in the secondary, which kind of allows the guys up front to get after the quarterback.
Yeah, and that's interesting because you're going into a game against Illinois, where the pass protection it could be vulnerable or it is a little improved. It's improved since last season, where it was the opposite, where the Illinois offensive line was more adept at run blocking last year and more vulnerable in pass blocking, and it's flipped this year. So maybe we see some more of those, the Tony White creativity and exotic looks, exotic pressures, like you said. Maybe not the whole bag, but I just found that interesting coming into the Big Ten opener, where if you're saving up stuff, this could be a game that we see some of that because it's a pretty important game. I know you guys see the Illinois, the Big Ten opener as a bigger game than the Colorado game from a uh, season long goal standpoint and everything, and growth of the program standpoint. And it's funny that it's similar to there's not the hatred. It's not going to be as hostile, I guess you'd say, in Memorial Stadium on Friday night, because there's a lot more respect for this Illinois program, and I don't think there's a hatred there at all, like there is with the Colorado rivalry. Not even close, really. I mean, Matt Rule's talking this week about how he has so much respect for Brett Bielema, and they have a group chat. They have a group chat between the Big Ten coaches, which I'm sure is not all it's cracked up to be in my mind and what you picture like at first when you hear that. But anyway, Brett Bielema coming in here Friday night, and wanted to just real uh, real smooth, like go around the room for your bold prediction. Steve, I think you and I are both gonna have a pretty specific one, or kind of random, not even random. It's not random, obviously, but um, very, again, specific. So what we got?
Yeah, so my bold prediction going into this one is Nebraska's punt team recovers a muffed punt. And I say muffed punt because Mac Rasedich, who is one of Illinois' primary punt returners, he's had 2 of those this season so far. He's dropped 2 punts so far. And again, I don't even know. I don't know if he's going to be back there because he's been so kind of shaky back there. But if he is, I think Nebraska's crowd is going to be juiced. I mean, it's going to be a 400 sellout. Everybody's talking about that. There's going to be a lot of people in there. They're going to be making noise. They're going to be trying to make it tough on Illinois. If Mac Rasedich is back there, head on a swivel. If you're Ed Foley's guys out there on the punt team, and if we want to go even further with even more of a specific bold prediction, let's go with one of the gunners to recover Mac Rasedich's muffed punt, and let's go with Tommy Hill, one of the gunners.
Just like he downed that punt at the 1 yard line. It's a fact.
Yeah.
I noticed that in the moment, and then it's like when you think back, because I was on radio coverage for Ed Foley on Tuesday night, and he was talking about that. I'm like, oh my, I knew that. So he made that play, and then was it? I
And
think it's the very next play,
very
the pick
next play, he
six.
picked
So
off. Yeah, picked off Shadur. Yep, pick
if
six.
if they recover a punt, or you say two, a
What's
muff?
that?
Did you say one or two muff punts?
No,
Just
just
one.
one muff
Okay.
punt. Yeah, I think Illinois will muff one punt. I think it'll be Mac Rasetich back there. I think he's going to drop a punt, and I think Tommy Hill's going to be right there to recover it.
If they do, maybe that gets the angry mini mob that's starting to form about Nebraska special teams off of Ed Foley's
Yeah.
back for a little bit if they make a play like that, one of those game changers. And on the other side, you have Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, who's been getting a lot of love lately and
Hmm.
deservedly so for the way he's um, subtly changed the game, changing the field position instead of being back, like not backed up, instead of being at the 20, 25 on a ball that would
Hmm.
have rolled against Colorado. They were right near midfield, and then it went right down, scored a touchdown.
He's been really impressive. IGC has been really impressive with tracking the ball through the air and then just securing the catch, which for the past few seasons at Nebraska, maybe even more than the past 3 seasons. I mean, it's just been non-existent. The punt return game has been such a headache for this program lately. But and who knows what last year what it would have looked like last year if IGC didn't tear his ACL? He probably would have been out there instead of just a gimpy, not even 100%
Literally,
Billy Kemp.
Billy Kemp literally just out there to field the ball, and that's
Literally just
it.
out there to
Don't.
catch the ball, and he could barely move. It was the wildest thing in the world. Nebraska's special teams units last year were crazy.
What a wild time 2023 was in the 2022 season. We're on to different times. We don't need to dwell on those seasons yet. It's exciting around here,
Now we're
man.
catching punts and returning them for
Yeah.
first down, so it's good.
Yeah, we're catching punts and not muffing them. That's a thrill ride over here. Tim, what do you got?
Yeah, I think going into this game, we kind of talked about in the Nebraska football show this week. We really like Illinois' edge rushers, and the strength of their defense feels like the secondary as well. But you can run on them. You can run on them. They've kind of shown that through the first couple weeks of the season that the between the tackles is pretty open. I think me and Steve kind of talked about it on the sideline last week. Dante Dowdell is kind of moving with some confidence right now, coming out of the tunnel and going through warmups. Like he's the guy. He's RB1. The rest of the guys kind of fall in line behind him, just in terms of the impact they can have on the game and the amount of snaps they're playing. But put me down for Dante Dowdell to clear 100 yards and also average over 6 yards per carry. I think this is going to be a big day for him. I think what Nebraska wants to do is be able to lead on the run late in games, and I think you're going to have an opportunity here to get Dante rolling early and potentially lead on him and Ramir Johnson, Emmett Johnson, and Gabe Irvin down the stretch of the game to kind of carry out this win.
Tim, you've been making me do math on all of our rapid recaps and bold predictions. I mean, you say clear 100. You didn't say a specific number, but over 6 yards of carry, at over 100 yards. So at least 17 or 16.6. 100 divided by 6 is 16.66666. Repeating, of course. So bell cow. So it's bell cow time on Friday night.
It feels like it. It feels like it.
It
Yeah.
feels like a game that Rule really wants to get 75 rushing yards in the fourth quarter. And that will make a statement against a team like Illinois that prides itself on the line of scrimmage, against a head coach and Brett Bielema, who really loves his offensive and defensive lines. But, if you get Rule give Rule some truth serum and say, hey, what do you really want to accomplish on Friday night? On Fox prime time, everybody's going to be watching you. There's two other games, but everybody's going to be watching this one. He's like, I want to run the ball down these guys' throats in the fourth quarter, get 75 yards of rushing in the final 15 minutes. I bet that's what he really wants to do.
Yeah, I
And
mean, thinking out loud right now, I'm like, maybe my prediction shifts to Dante for 100 yards, but the running backs as a whole average over 6 yards per carry because I do think they're going to split it up a good bit. I do
sure.
think Dante's going to end up being the bell cow. I think that's like just kind of what we're shifting to. I think he's earned the respect of the rest of the room. I think he's earned the respect of the offense, just the way he runs. He's a tone setter. They talked about
Hmm.
earlier this week how on defense that how much they miss Jamari Butler just because of the unnatural juice he brings and the energy. And I think Dante is the same way. You see the way guys get pumped up, the line gets pumped up when he just runs through a guy's face at the end of a run, and the way he just finishes runs and what that and does to the rest of the offense. I think he's emerging as this RB1, and it's happening sooner than I expected. And I had him as the breakout player of the year for this team.
I mean, Shiloh Sanders understands the statement that Dante can make. I mean, his forearm knows it. It's in two pieces now. So, yeah, I mean, I totally agree, Tim. Dante I mean, he looks like a Big Ten back. So this is, um, I think this is a game for him and maybe even Gabe Ervin too. I mean, this is kind of like a downhill. Maybe this is something where Dante gets it rolling in the first half and third quarter, and then you finish it off with Gabe Ervin and that 220-pound hammer too.
Yeah, and to that point, first off, for all you mathletes out there who want to comment, I understand that Dante Dowdell could clear 6 yards per carry with having less attempts than 16.6. Okay, before you start to come at my math skills, which I have none, I'd use a calculator for that. But the Gabe Ervin point sort of brings it back full circle to what we opened with. It's like, okay, he has not been getting much run at all outside what I think he had 2 touchdowns in the UTEP game, but he had like 7 yards or whatever
Mm-hmm.
whatever the
And
number was.
yeah, and Rule said something with Gabe. It's almost like Rule said that he's like, I got this in my head that I just want him to use it like he's a I back, like he's a I formation running back with like Gabe Ervin is an I formation guy and blah blah blah. But it's like they don't do a ton of that. So I still think there's a place in this offense for Gabe Ervin, and especially it's a long season, and Matt Rule always talks about wanting to play more games in the regular season, a potential Big Ten conference championship appearance, maybe even more. I mean, Matt Rule always says all this stuff. So to do that, you need to keep these guys fresh. And I think it's a good idea to keep everybody in that running back room fresh, because I think everybody can do a little something. I mean, I bet Emmett Johnson's going to get more opportunities after what he showed last week.
Yeah, I don't know if Tim, you had extra thoughts on that. If not, we're going to roll right to mine. You guys are talking about all the running backs, and you're almost certainly right. I keep getting stuck. I didn't know what I wanted to do for my prediction today. I keep getting stuck on the Dylan Raiola to Isaiah Nair connection, which that was the first week of the season, the UTEP game. I predicted that Isaiah Nair would Raiola and Nair would connect for a 40+ yard touchdown pass, and that's what happened. Now I'm conveniently leaving out the part that I said it would no doubt happen on a quick pass, either a quick like bubble screen type thing, or they get her short of or more around the line of scrimmage, and then he would take off and maybe get a block or so downfield, and boom. Didn't happen exactly like that, but he got the explosive touchdown. And the next 2 games, Colorado and UNI, you see that you can tell that Nair is Dylan's favorite target, downfield target at least.
Yep.
So far, like that's the guy he looks to. That's the guy I think he probably trusts the most on those shot plays. And they came close. Well, they came really close and then relatively close. One throw each against Colorado. It was an elbow that it was good. It was really good pass coverage, but they tried back shoulder fade for. I think it was over 20 yards downfield. Downfield, I think it was like 30 some yards. When Colorado's DB got an elbow in there, and you could see on the slow mo replay that the ball was coming in and just hit his elbow when Nair had had his left hand there, his left arm there for a one hand, one arm catch. And then against UNI, it was a poor throw, but it just comes down to miscommunication, I think, or mistiming, where even slight on downfield throws like that, especially that long of a pass for a back shoulder throw, even the slightest mistiming or miscommunication on something like that can make it look like it was way off. But I think that they're going to connect on one of those plays for a huge gain. I have my prediction is a 30+ yard touchdown from Raiola to Nair on one of those back shoulder. I keep wanting to call it back shoulder fade, but that's not necessarily what it is. That's why I keep like hesitating. I'm like, no, gotta get that out. But back shoulder throw, we'll call it. maybe it winds up being one of those spectacular catches that they keep playing on Sports Center like they did on Railo's first career touchdown pass against UTEP. So with that, let's get the final score predictions. Bring it around the room in 60 seconds or less, I'll say.
Yeah, so my final score prediction, Nebraska 31, Illinois 23. So I have Nebraska improving to 4-0 on the season and 1-0 in the conference. I think that they're going to get the run game going. When you look at Illinois' defense, like Tim said, there's a lot of opportunity in the middle of the field through those tackles. Kansas rushed for 178 yards, 5.39 per pop. Central Michigan last week rushed for 142 yards with 4.3 per pop. There's opportunity there. There is absolutely opportunity to get that run game going. And once that happens, once that extra safety gets dropped down, that's where Dylan Raiola comes in, and those two big bodies on the outside with Isaiah Nayor, Jamal Banks, and possibly Thomas Fidone in the middle of the field too.
Yeah, I've got it similar, 27-17. I think they cover. I think I also agree. I think Nebraska improves to 4-0, 1-0 in conference play. I think my big thing here is going to be once again the run game, but also the defense just gets an opportunity. I think here to play some even match competition. Like kind of get after even match competition, but a line that I think is still a little vulnerable and a line they can get after. I think those receivers are going to challenge this defensive back room. It's an experienced group. It's a veteran group. Luke Altmaier's definitely taking a step. I do think they put some points up, but I think Nebraska finds a way to pull away. And like I've said, kind of with my prediction kind of leads into this. I think they're going to have an opportunity to kind of sit on the ball late in the third and into the fourth quarter with a double-digit lead, and kind of sit on that. Like I have it 27-17, but it's kind of just enough of a lead where it feels out of reach.
I'm switching slightly. I had 24. I keep going down by increments of three. Originally, I wanted to say 24-19. Then I wanted to say 24-16. Going 24-13. You guys have convinced me just ever so slightly to knock 3 points down from Illinois. I mean, the random scores, because I mean, not only do I love random scores because it feels like it feels like it's never a clean score. I don't know. Especially in
It's
a
a
game like
Friday night,
Illinois.
so let's get Friday night game. Let's get weird.
A Friday night game. Let's get weird. BYO. Actually, you don't have to bring your own juice. That crowd's going to be juiced up.
Yeah, they will.
But Illinois, it was 20-7 last year, which is still like looks kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
No, it was a Friday night game too.
Yeah. 15-14 to Rutgers 2 years before that. Like at Rutgers, that was a weird atmosphere. Steve,
So
we
so
were
if
there.
we're
It was
talking
weird.
if we're talking about weird, let's just say it in a world where this game is close at the end of the game, late in the fourth quarter, it's close. Field goals become a factor. Let's talk about Illinois and how they might have a really good advantage in that department because David Alano, not Alvano, David
Alano versus
Alano
Alvano.
Alano
Kicker
versus
battle.
Alvano. I can't even say it. David Alano is Illinois' top field goal kicker. He's 6 of 7 this season. He has a long of 50. The guy looks like an NFL kicker right now. I mean, he's very efficient. He's got a big leg too. But then they also have this other cat. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I'm gonna give it a shot here. Ethan Moczulski. He is 1-for-1 on this season, and that one attempt and that one make from 59 yards away. I don't know if Nebraska. I don't know if Johnny Hull is going to go out there and be kicking 59-yard field goals. So if it's a tight game with Illinois and Nebraska on Friday night, Illinois might have that advantage there with their two field goal kickers.
You're on mute, Tim.
Oh, there we go.
The mute button got him.
Oh,
Got
mute
me.
monster.
We're good. Did he get me again? It did not.
No, you're good.
Very good. But Ethan,
Now I was on
Ethan,
mute. Now I was on
completely
mute. We're
forgot.
falling apart over here as a podcast.
I completely forgot. I covered Ethan back at Texas A&M. He was part of that commit class, and
Oh,
then
he's
I
a
guess
transfer.
he either decommitted or he transferred. I think he committed because his ESPN headshot is
He
still
was a
the A&M.
transfer because I was looking at his stat line and it said I think he's 2 seasons at A&M before transferring. So he spent the 2023 season there.
Yeah, so I covered him at A&M, and I remember he was part of that recruit class. They were really excited about him because he had a leg, but yeah, I guess he's at Illinois now. I did not even realize that.
Yeah, looks like he's from Spokane, Washington, and his major is agricultural communication. So there you go with Texas A&M. But Illinois has some agriculture too. So shout out Ethan Moczulski.
That's Nebraska or Illinois' version of Jason Machachok, who I
Yeah.
I every time I say it in my head so that I get the spelling down, I have it down now, but it's Macy JC Zack, just so I that's the
When I was doing his
thing I
commitment
do.
story, I was writing that thing in my sleep, just like you said, Zach, you like just have to break it up with like the boom, boom, boom. And it's like, yeah,
And that was back when I didn't know how to pronounce his name. So I'm like, I know it's not Macy J. Czak, and I know I'm going to accidentally slip up one of these times, and I'm going to sound like an idiot, but I know it's not that.
yeah.
So
I was like, Machachok, Machachok, Machachok. So it's like, yeah.
what McShake Shack. My final
Sorry,
score
Jason,
is
if you're listening.
yeah, I was going to say sorry to the apologies to the Macy J. Czak family and the Ethan M family. Um, 24-13. I'm having trouble ending this podcast because I keep going back and forth. I don't know what I want my final score to be, but
I keep bringing up field goals every time on this thing. So here we go. Yeah,
that's
that's
why
my
I keep
fault.
that's why I keep thinking like Nebraska's defense. I trust them to hold up in the red zone if Illinois does move the ball. If they do hit a downfield play or two, because they are capable of that with the couple of receivers they have, Zaire Franklin and BP is his are his
Pat
initials.
Bryant and Zachary Franklin.
Pat Bryant flipped them. Um,
Mhm.
So I think I think that's a possibility that you get that in man coverage or something downfield and but I do trust this Nebraska defense to hold up in the red zone and I trust those Illinois kickers to be clean, to be efficient and to knock them through if they do get in range and I think they will get in range and it could come down to just bending not breaking if Illinois is able to hit on a couple of explosives or matriculate down the field if you can get that running game going. But I don't know. Um, that's not really the strength of this year's team, and run defense is going to that defensive line is a strength of Nebraska. So I like kind of see an ugly type of score, field goal game a little bit, which is why I keep going down by 3 point increments because it's like how many opportunities is Illinois going to get to drive the field and be in that situation. So, any final thoughts in like 30 seconds or less before we get out of here?
For me, just yeah, the outside linebackers, that three-headed monster, Gabe Jackas, Seth Coleman, Alec Bryant. Seth Coleman, if Husker fans remember, 2 seasons ago, he's the one who twisted around the A gap on a stunt and knocked Casey Thompson out of the game. And for a chunk, I don't remember how many games he missed, but he hit his throwing hand and knocked Casey Thompson out. So hopefully that doesn't happen with Dylan Raiola. But Seth Coleman has history of with Nebraska quarterbacks. So keep an eye on him. He's really good. They have like 3 NFL caliber outside linebackers, in my opinion.
Yeah, it wound up being 2 games. He missed this entire second half, I think, and then Minnesota and Michigan. And at that point, Nebraska, I think, was either tied for first in the Big Ten West. RIP, Big Ten West, pour some out. But I think they were either tied or like a game out, whatever. That was sort of the beginning of the end
Yeah.
of that season. That looked so promising after a 15-14 win over Rutgers and 28-14 over Indiana. Why do I keep bringing up the 2022 season, Tim?
That's again my fault. I bring up the field goal kickers every time, and I bring up that stuff from 2 years ago every time. So my bad on that.
I'd started forgiving them for the 2022 season. That like this was a path of recovery and redemption here this year. Just bringing up old scars. Tim, any last thoughts?
Yeah, last thought here from me. I think if Nebraska gets caught anywhere, I think it's going to be that Illinois just that running back room. They've got 3 backs that I really like. All bring a little something different to the table. You've got a starter that's 6'3", 250. You got 2 guys behind him. Don't have that size necessarily, but they move a lot better between the tackles. A little shiftiness to them, a little power to them. So if Illinois catches Nebraska's defense anywhere, especially after last week's performance, I've just got my eye on that and seeing just how much better this defense can respond against the run than they did last week.
And that 6'3" running back, how do you pronounce his name? Because there's been some consternation about that. We're going through name pronunciations today.
Caden Fegan is the way I've been saying it. I think that's it. But
There's been a couple different pronunciations. I don't know. I don't even know how to pronounce the word pronunciation. I don't know. We're all scrambled eggs. We're all or not all of us. I am. I mean, it's a short week, weird week. Let's get weird Friday night. Again, 7 p.m. Central on Fox. And it's
Who's got the calls, Zach?
It's the biggest.
Look on the game notes.
Tim Brando and Devin Gardner with Josh Sims doing sideline.
Do you guys like Tim Brando?
I liked him. The Michigan State game was nice last year, where they were calling out they weren't trying to dilly dally. And then Dean Blandino is by far the best rules analyst in the game because he actually calls the officials out, and
Yeah.
you don't hear that from any other rules analyst. Like they're and Dean Blandino. I've been saying this for years that he's the only one who actually has the you know what's to say it like it is, and I love that about him.
Hmm.
So he was calling him out for some it's one thing like Rule said. I was saying it, and then 2 days later, Rule said it in the post game or the Monday presser. Like, if you miss a pass interference call, even if it's obvious, okay, but how do you miss on the replay? And that happened for that big one. And I remember Tim Brando for the Michigan State, the big touchdown there in the second half, and Tim Brando and whoever the color analyst was, they were like kind of beside themselves. Like, I don't know how this happened. There were some other calls in that game, but
Hmm.
do you like Tim Brando?
I do. He's kind of quirky and kind of older and more traditional and knows a lot of history of the game. But yeah, some of the stuff he says, I find enjoyment in. So yeah, I liked him.
What was your line earlier on the Nebraska football show? You're
No.
Tim was like, "Hey, what are your thoughts on the weekend slate since we'll be able to watch Saturday action with the Nebraska game on Friday?" Like, I haven't even looked at his schedule, but I can find joy in every single college football game.
No, I can. Yeah. I mean, I'm a Mountain West guy, so almost RIP to that conference. But I just love those teams. So late at night, of course, I'm going to miss them all because of the Nebraska game. But yeah, I mean, I'm a kind of a late night. Let's check out some Mountain West Conference football type of guy.
Tim, I was just there yesterday. Me and you were walking back from the press conference to our cars, and I was talking about how like sports writers, people who cover college football, like they I didn't understand it until like a couple months ago when I heard it on one of the national podcasts. Like, yeah, they love the Mountain West so much because by the time they get back from covering their own game, the only games that are on are Mountain West football.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, well, I got to fall in love with San Jose State versus New Mexico or whatever the hell the matchup is. I'm like,
Oh, guys, we got Kansas State at BYU at 9:30. Let's go.
that was the one I almost put in the weekly picks. I almost replaced Washington Northwestern with
That
Kansas
game
State
stinks.
BYU.
That game is so depressing. I can't even think about that game. Like
Purple on purple. Come
A lot
on.
of purple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
Hey,
like
shout out Northern Iowa though, going to Hawaii. Hope they made it over there. Okay.
Northern Iowa is.
Northern Iowa is at Hawaii Saturday night.
I wonder
11
how
p.m.
much they're
kickoff.
getting
Be there,
paid
be
for
square.
that trip. That's cool.
Probably a lot.
Yeah, San Jose
they're spending
State's
like a week there.
3-0
We were
battle.
talking. We were talking to a Northern Iowa
Yeah, he
staffer,
was in the elevator at Memorial Stadium when we were headed down to
and they got in.
the
They got into
sidelines.
Hawaii on like Wednesday, so they're basically spending like a good 4 or 5 days. Which for the rest of the staff is nice. For the players, obviously, it's all game prep. But
Must be nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want Hawaii to win that one. I want them to get back to 2-0. Schrager bombs all day. Let's go, Braden Schrager.
There we go. Let's go, Braden Schrager. That's exactly what I thought we would end this podcast on when we started. This was one of our most loopy ones. Short week. Might be a weird game on Friday night. Kind of perfectly fits what the tone of this game might be. So, with that, we're gonna get out of here. It's all we have for you. Again, encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, get all these videos dropped directly into your feed. For Steve Mark and Tim Verghese, I'm Zach Carpenter. We'll catch you guys again next time.